This week on the Quad, is war back? We're fighting back the Houthis. America's fighting back the Houthis. What does that mean for the Islamic Republic of Iran? And as every single week, so many scumbags, so many heroes, only on JNS, only on the Quad. And welcome back, everybody, to the Quad. Another week here in Israel under sirens from attacks from the Houthis. But here I am with my distinguished co-host in order to unpack everything for you. Emily Schrader, who is a human rights activist and journalist. Shoshanna Keats Jaskoll. She is the founder of Chochmat Nashim, elevating Orthodox women's voices. Barbara Heller from LA. I think she's probably just moved here already. Comedian, podcaster, actress, and of course, our wonderful Daniel-Ryan Spaulding, comedian, an all-round good soul. So, people, here we are, one more week. And on Friday night, I don't know what you were all doing, but I ran to the shelter with my family as the Houthis decided to attack again. The United States has now continued attacking the Houthis because they are blocking Red Sea routes so that your Amazon packages cannot get to you sooner than you think. But all in all, they're trying to do the bidding for the Islamic Republic of Iran. Israel's back in Gaza. So is this war restarting just when we thought there was a chance of calming everything down and, most importantly, getting our hostages back who are in such a precarious situation right now? Eli Sharabi, that wonderful soul who came out of Gaza emaciated to find out that his wife and two daughters had been brutally murdered on October 7th, was at the UN this week saying about the mistreatment, about the torture, and more importantly, about the starvation they're going through when Hamas was stealing all the aid and they had plenty of food. And he said that to the UN.
I saw what happened to that aid. Hamas stole it. I saw Hamas terrorists carrying boxes with the UN and UNRWA emblems on them into the tunnel. Dozens and dozens of boxes, paid by your government. Feeding terrorists who tortured me and murdered my family. They would eat many meals a day from the UN aid in front of us, and we never received any of it. When you speak of humanitarian aid, remember this. Hamas eats like kings, while hostages starve. Hamas steals from civilians. Hamas blocks aid from reaching those who truly need it. 491 days. That is how long I starved. How long I was chained. How long I begged for humanity. And in all that time, no one came. And no one in Gaza helped me. No one.
So there's a lot to unpack. Emily, let's start with the Houthis.
Starting with the Houthis. Well, I mean, I think we're just at the beginning of dealing with the Houthis. I'm very, very happy, obviously, to see that the United States is taking decisive action on this front. It's funny because after the Houthis attacked Israel, you saw the United States telling Israel, we got this. So we've seen attacks almost every night from the United States, and it remains to be seen how effective those will be. But at the end of the day, this issue isn't in Yemen, it isn't with the Houthis, it isn't even with Hezbollah or Hamas, it's with the Islamic regime in Iran, and it's not going to end until either the United States or Israel deal with that.
But Trump has actually put the responsibility for the Houthis on the Islamic Republic of Iran. Does that mean that we should be expecting either an attack or maximum pressure even faster? I'm always saying to let the Iranian people overthrow a horrible, toxic government.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you have an attack from the United States and Israel on Iran, the purpose isn't to liberate Iran. That's not going to come from the outside, which is something that the U.S. administration has said repeatedly, as well as the Iranian people. It's going to come from the people. And you already see now a movement during the holiday over this last weekend. You saw tens of thousands of Iranians chanting for the Shah inside of Iran at many of the historical sites, Persepolis, Persepolis, a lot of these places that they will go to visit that are ancient Iran, to, go back to their roots. And we saw huge, huge support on the ground there against the regime. In fact, some of the people have already been arrested as a result of some of these videos coming forward. So the regime is like really, really weak right now. I do think there will probably be some kind of attack eventually if they continue to refuse to go to Trump's call to negotiations. I don't know how genuine he's been about actually negotiating in the first place. I think it's kind of a tactic. We know what they're going to do. We know they wanted to assassinate Trump or tried to assassinate Trump. We know that they were going to come under maximum pressure sanctions, which they are now experiencing. So I'm not really surprised to see them denying it and sort of digging their own grave, but, we'll see.
And Russia, Ukraine, the United States is negotiating, but I actually read something really interesting. No, I heard something really interesting that our Raviv Resingor, that we both like so much, said something very interesting. He said Trump is doing this in order to pull Russia away from Iran so that then we can create an axis against Iran. I'm just wondering if this is really true, then maybe really is Trump that genius that nobody gives him any credit for?
Sorry, that was a great question. Is Trump really a genius?
I think he may be. I'm sorry.
I would love to believe that he has the chess pieces in his mind and that he's a master strategist and that we're just going to be like, wow, thank you so much. Because honestly, I'm just sitting back in my house praying to God, being like, I have zero idea what I can do about this situation right now. I'm going to do what you gave me 5 kids to take care of. I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to go to the quad. I'm going to do my job. And please take care of everything else because I'm lost. I'm not a strategist. I can't figure this out. I don't have answers. I can only hope.
Shoshanna, you have a son in the army. Are you concerned?
I have a daughter in the army.
And a daughter. You concerned that we're going back into Gaza?
Yeah, I am. I personally think that bombings and the type of fighting that we've been doing, which causes tremendous casualties on both sides and not enough on Hamas because they hide underneath, I would rather just take land. The only thing they care about is land. Push in, give me a hostage, give me a hostage until you have this little square. I don't care about that. I don't care if they lose land. I'm very happy for them to lose land because that's all they care about. But this type of bombing, Hamas is underground. What do they care?
I think you're really 100% correct. And that really is a question that I wanted to ask you. I mean, these are the taxes we should be paying. You don't give us our hostages back, we take a kilometer. Every day we take a kilometer. Is that something we could do? And then the world is going to criticize us no matter what we do. But what would you say to that tactic?
I would say maximum pressure. I think that
with no humanitarian aid, cut off electricity.
At this point, I think that this seems to be what they respond to. I think that no matter what Israel does, the subversion of the West is so deep and the hatred of Jews is just so deep in people's bones that I think that we need hyper-patriotism for the whole Western world. It has to be us who want to live in Western secular democracies versus jihad. So whatever internal criticism we might have of our government or our Western governments, we have to recognize that Israel is really in an existential war for either living in a Western democracy or Sharia law. And so whatever needs to be done, at this point, I think that that's more important.
But why doesn't anybody else get it? I don't understand.
This is one of the things that has bothered me about the whole Trump administration. I know we're going a little bit off topic, but I do think it's important to note. I don't agree with a lot of the way that Trump approaches these issues. And I certainly historically have been much more libertarian on a lot of these issues. I was a free speech absolutist. But the reality of the situation that you see today is that when you do not enforce the rule of law, you cannot have civil liberties. The reason why the United States has the highest level of protections for free speech in the entire world, much more than you see in Europe, is because they have, until now, defended themselves as a nation with an ideology behind it, the American, dream. Imperfect as it may be, it still exists. And when you don't have that anymore, when you're not enforcing the law, you're not enforcing, anti-terrorism laws, you're not enforcing immigration laws, you have a deterioration of civil liberties because you have to. So if it wasn't Trump, it would be someone else, because someone has to crack down on the radicalism that exists. And so, yes, we have to see the scale shift a little bit more, quite frankly, authoritarian than I'm comfortable with, in order to restore that order. Otherwise, it will be complete chaos, and it will continue going the direction of extremism, whether on campus or in communities.
Barb, you're also a free speech absolutist.
Yes.
What do you think about everything that's going on now with what's his name? Mahmoud Khalil, his wife on CBS crying about her husband having no clue why anybody thinks he supports Hamas, even though he was giving out the pamphlet, and cosplayed taking over a building and negotiating like if he was actual Hamas.
I've been thinking a lot about this now that I'm living here in the Middle East for longer than I did when I went to seminary and I was sort of in my little bubble. And I have to say, I've been hearing something that really freaked me out. And I never really knew this until now, and maybe because I'm such a free spirit. I didn't realize that the people who support this Islamic regime of terror that are like going all over the world and doing the marketing for it, like Mahmoud Khalil, unfortunately, they lie. They sometimes will let
you mean,
Middle East.
Yeah. you mean genocidal terrorists don't tell the truth?
No. And my very sweet liberal friends who I guess would hate Trump so much that they would rather stand up for people that would literally take all of their rights away. I want to say to you, pick a regime, because at the moment, America looks pretty good. I mean, yes, it's going down in flames pretty fast because it's really split right now, which is one of the reasons I like to do my show, because I like to make everyone see, oh, we actually have a lot more in common together in America than we do, except for the probably 7 million people that just came in through the border that we don't know who they are. But we have to look at the lies too, and we have to start, unfortunately, looking for the bad. Like, I'm someone who tries to look for the good. Dan l'chafsritz is something I said on the show before. It's a Jewish value where you don't call someone guilty until they're proven that way. But please don't be fooled by the lies. And these people on college campuses who have taken all this curriculum from CAIR for 20-something years. I was one of those people. I went to the University of Florida and studied, religion, the sociology of religion. And I thought I knew everything about it. I knew everything about every single religion. And it was one class. And unfortunately, there were lies in my class. So I would like to see people get on the same page, the right page, and pick a regime. If you like freedom, you might want to fight for what Trump is fighting for right now.
But that's what I'm saying. I really believe that there's checks and balances in the United States. And while I don't agree with the way that Donald Trump has done things or is doing some things, I also trust in the Constitution and the system to keep him in check. We're talking about 4 years. And I know there's people who are like, he's a dictator and he's going to change the Constitution. Okay. Good luck.
Right.
Good luck with that, even with a Republican Congress and Senate.
They won't even let him deport somebody.
Yeah.
The courts are trying to do judicial overreach which is really, it's not their jurisdiction to say to Marco Rubio, you can't deport this person, or you can't cancel their visa for actually breaking the law or for causing problems in the country. It's kind of
apparently also lying on his application form. The government's report also said that he hid his involvement with UNRWA.
And Megyn Kelly also made a very good point on her podcast, and she said, how come he got his green card so quickly? Yeah. Let me tell you, I know some great people. Yeah. How long did it take you, Daniel, to get your green card?
I still don't have a green card. It takes 3 years on my visa to be able to even apply for a green card.
So what's going on really underneath maybe the deep state, which everybody's talking about this week, that this guy got his green card really quickly? Even though he's married, I know plenty of people. Megyn Kelly talked about her nephew who brought somebody from Korea, fell in love with this South Korean girl, brought her over, married, and she still doesn't have her green card. What's going on in the State Department that these people are just getting green lights?
The American left is so demoralized and so weak to the point where just seeing a leader who is strong and making decisive actions scares them. That looks like authoritarianism to them because they've been so demoralized. Like the fact that people are entering the country illegally, that in and of itself is illegal.
Right.
Like, you should not just have open borders where anyone who could be a murderer or a rapist and as I'm saying this, I can imagine these people perceiving this as xenophobic and racist.
Right.
But there are people with bad intentions who have entered the country illegally, and it's perfectly normal for a country to want sovereignty and to know who is in their country.
But also, what incentive is there to do things legally if you can just do things illegally? What's the incentive?
You just get put into the system.
Exactly. And by the way, legal immigrants voted for Trump, especially the Latino community, because the Latino community said, no, we went through the right trajectory to get here and to be here as citizens. Why is this happening?
You raised something really interesting, because I don't know if you have noticed, but the JFK files were opened, and all the good people on X are saying that Israel murdered JFK, and it was a big conspiracy. It was the Mossad.
Israel president, but sure.
No, you guys, like, if you're on X for like 5 minutes and you don't know anything of reality, the Jews have completely controlled history, present, future, weather. I mean, it is a cesspool of insanity. But what's interesting about what you guys just said, they're all into these conspiracy theories about the Jews. The Jew is the man behind the curtain, the hook nose behind the curtain. But they're not looking at what's going on in the government. Like you said, like, why is everyone coming in? There's a conspiracy going on, and it's not the Jews. But they're like,
look over here.
Exactly. It's a total distraction about what's actually going on. And there are elements who want to destroy the West and the United States of America as a symbol of the West. And they are working hard. They're working hard, and people need to really understand that. Like, you think your biggest problem is your pronoun? Right. You're not going to have a right-left. Right. I don't mean right-left. I mean, you're not going to have any rights left because...
Nice, Shoshanna.
Seriously,
right and left.
Because you're going to turn around and you'll have whatever pronoun you want, and you will have no country. You will be in a burqa.
There's a lot of very smart people already talking about this, and I'm going to give a shameless plug here. Eric Weinstein is coming this week to Israel. I will be interviewing him in Tel Aviv at the back of a tech conference on Thursday evening for Kol Israel and Tel Aviv Salon. So everybody get your tickets now. But Eric Weinstein talks about the Great Nap, which is the West not even knowing it's at war. And for 30 years, in every single area of life, including science, in every single area of life, subversive culture wars that we are only waking up to now.
Well, some of us are doubling down, because you'd have to, God forbid, say, I've been standing up for evil people. No, that can't be. I'll just call it power versus the weak, and the weak, whoever the weak is, I don't care who it is, even if they want me dead, I will fight for them.
The woke, I mean, that's I guess the woke is part of this whole kind of subversive cultural wars. But where is this going to end? And maybe one more question. Has Israel been infected by this as well? We've seen a lot of protests here this week, and there's good reason on both sides. You can say, yes, people really want the hostages out, and they should come out. And people really I don't even think that people really know what we're protesting for. Some people are saying, get all the hostages out in one go. Other people are saying, well, get whatever you can. It's a very painful topic in Israel. But what's interesting is that at least here in the Middle East, we can go out there and we can protest and we can continue to protest. And that is something, in fact, to be proud of. But going back to these cultural wars, are we going to win this? Is it too late? Or has this kind of great wake up from what Eric Weinstein says, the great nap? Are we here on time with somebody like Trump, who needs to be, like you say, even on the other side of it in order to bring some type of balance? Is this what's going to happen?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to win this. I really don't know. It depends how things go in the next couple of years. I think we're at a very precarious point in history, especially in American history. And I hope that the existing laws that are, for the most part, reasonable are going to be enforced, because otherwise it will be absolute chaos, and it will be much harder and much worse and much more difficult the longer this goes on, which is why already you have people screaming about how he's a dictator or it's authoritarian or blah, 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 whatever, because nobody did it before. Nobody did it under previous presidencies. And it does need to be dealt with. And the longer we pretend that it's not a problem, the worse it's going to be.
Daniel, are the progressives waking up?
I think that classical liberals are. I think a lot of classical liberals switched over to Republicans. I think the Democratic Party has to transform. I think that they need new leaders and leaders who are who are able to engage with the right and have conversations.
And not cancel them,
And not
essentially.
cancel them and not go into the hysterics. Like really what's happening right now, if AOC and Bernie Sanders sort of take the mantle and of the Democratic Party, the country is going to slip into communism and Bolshevism. Like they're sort of like Bolsheviks.
Or the opposite.
They seem to be doubling down, the Democratic Party, aren't they?
Well, that's
I mean,
so
we're
crazy.
Richie Torres, Fetterman was here this week. They should be the future.
They should, yeah.
And America needs the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy that they're at an all-time low for support in the United States after Trump won the elections. Like, but what you're doing something wrong, you know?
So is there a real struggle within the Democratic Party for the soul of the Democratic Party right now?
I believe so. I think it's the activist class. The activist class has been really hijacked, and also they're anti-Semitic. Like your brain can't function when you're completely subverted and you don't understand like basic facts about history, and you have a completely distorted view of Israel, and you believe that it's a Zionist entity state, and you believe all this Soviet propaganda, and all of this stuff has been festering in academia for so long. Your brain isn't thinking properly. You're not
only
clear.
that, we also are seeing the rise of progressive terrorism. Like, look what's happening to Tesla owners in America, and they're encouraging it on The Daily Show. It's like, oh my gosh, Jon Stewart.
John Stewart.
They laugh and applaud.
They laugh and applaud, and they say like,
Destruction of private property. And this is domestic terrorism. I don't understand. You could hate Elon Musk as much as you want. That's still domestic terrorism.
But it's all this, it's MSNBC and The Daily Show is constantly like hating your government, hating like.
There's a member of Congress, Moulton, Representative Moulton, who was on CNN, and they were praising it and like joking about it, and he's just smiling and nodding. You're a member of Congress.
Yeah.
I've seen videos of people making, sorry, this is kind of gross, trigger warning. They kind of make themselves vomit and like take their throw up and put it on people's Teslas, or wiping their tush. And
Oh my God.
yeah, I saw a video.
That's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
I have faith in the average American. I think most Americans are not making themselves vomit and putting it all over Teslas.
You're right.
I think the average American knows the difference
not.
between evil and good. I think the average American voted for Trump, and many of whom had to hold their noses while they did so.
Yes.
While they did so,
100%.
but they understood what you guys are talking about, which is that the left, progressive, whatever, has just gone off the rails, and it is a absolute existential threat to the country. So I have faith in the Americans. I think they will pull it together. I hope it comes fast, and it might get ugly.
So I really do hope that we can turn this all around. And this is perhaps the time to move on to our very popular, great segment, Scumbag of the Week. Okay, I don't even know how to say this because Daniel has become so legendary now for his Scumbags of the Week. It's almost theatrical.
Yeah.
Daniel.
My scumbag this week is Crystal Ball from Breaking Points. Take a look.
Netanyahu has built his political career on making Hamas the ultimate boogeyman that you can never talk to, you can never negotiate as long as they're there. There's no partner for peace. They're just like the epitome of absolute evil. And I don't know, I'm not here to like whitewash or sanitize Hamas and what they're all about and the things that they've done or whatever. But you know, when you're actually sitting face to face with members of that group, and you're talking to them and they're explaining their reasoning and they're staking out positions and negotiating with you like they are human beings, because they are, it makes it much more difficult to maintain that caricature and have it stick.
I don't know what happened to these Bernie bros of 10 years ago. I used to really like you all. Crystal and Cigar, the Young Turks, Kyle Kalinske, Sam Cedar. But for some reason, you guys don't mind terrorism. Hamas is evil, Crystal. They burned whole families alive and raped dead bodies and kidnapped people, holding them captive in tunnels for over a year. They're psychotic jihadists who want to destroy the state of Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, with all his flaws, is still the democratically elected leader of a Western country. I don't know what your issue is, if you're a communist or being paid by Qatar, or if you just really hate Jews, but I'm pretty sure the reason the war is happening is because of the IRGC and the Muslim Brotherhood. That's why the IDF is called the IDF. It's a defensive army. They only go to war when they get attacked. Stop watching Al Jazeera, Crystal. Terrorists are capable of lying. Thank you.
Amazing that people don't seem to understand that terrorists are capable of lying.
Yeah.
It's weird. You'd think it would be very obvious.
Kind of go together.
Exactly. Shoshana, who is your scumbag?
Oh, you're sweet. My scumbag this week. Brianna Joy Gray. I really could pull any of your tweets or posts from X because, oh my gosh, they're all vomit-inducing. But this one was really highly agitating and stupid. So I'll just quote you right here. So Gal Gadot is quoted in Variety saying, Gal Gadot says, I had to speak up after October 7th and advocate for the hostages. I could not be silent. I was shocked by the amount of hate. She goes on to say that she is a 10th generation Israeli. And you, in your extreme wisdom, say 8th generation Israeli. Oh shit, 8 generations. That's like claiming to be an 8th generation computer user. Oh my gosh. You're so smart. None of us thought about it. Wait, Israel's only 75 years old to 8 generations? Can't be. And you actually took yourself in public to say this. Are you serious right now? Obviously, you know what she means. Her family has lived in the place that's called Israel for 8 generations, Cookie. That's just the way it works, okay? Coming out here and saying that she's a big liar and Israel's a big liar, really? It's just, I mean, I would say it's beneath you, but it is clearly not. So I just thought this post and this X tweet should actually be out there for the masses to see. Thank you for making me have such a great cathartic moment this week. I needed it.
Very good. And it's a very good computer metaphor because it doesn't compute that Jews are indigenous to the land of Israel. That's why she wrote that stupid moronic tweet that goes against recorded history. But that's the woman that you chose as a scumbag. Well done. Bob, who is your scumbag this week?
So I saw Brian Becker, who is the co-director of the International Action Center and the national director of International Answer, which stands for such a long acronym. Take one from the Jews. We make a little shorter acronyms, but Act Now to Stop War and End Racism, standing in the middle of New York City and saying this.
The Palestinians will win because this war has another front. It's not simply in Gaza. It's in New York City. It's in London. It's in Paris. It's in all the cities of the people around the world. There are 8 billion people in the world. Most of them stand with Gaza and say no to Israel.
Okay, the Palestinians will win this war because it's not just a war in Gaza, it's in cities all over the world. I think that's what you meant to say, because you are trying to say that all of the people that are standing in London, in Paris, and screaming out for the Gazans, that they actually are the people that we should be listening to. I really wish that you would spend a little bit more time with them and asking them what they think of the color of your skin and who you pray to. And if you're an atheist, because I'm not really quite sure, I tried to do a little deep dive on you. It sounds like you're actually literally calling for the world jihad. Nicely done. You realize that I understand that you stand up for Marxism and socialism, allegedly. And I also heard you say that Hezbollah is not a terror organization. If you are standing for an organization that literally is calling to stop war and end racism, I would love to invite you to Gaza and just hang out and see what it is that they stand for and what they scream in Iran, what they're forced to say in Iran every day, and see if there's maybe like a little connection there. also, I noticed, just doing a very, very short deep dive on you, that it didn't take me long to find out that the Progress Unity Fund, which you also are involved with, has allegedly taken money from the Tides Foundation and getting money from Soros's Open Society Foundation. So I wanted to look there because I noticed that there's a lot of people who stand for Marxism and communism and socialism and things that you scream about, and you're so willing to fight to the tooth and for people to have free speech to say things like death to America, death to Israel, and you're so critical of Israel. And yet somehow, maybe you're being paid by people in this network that don't really understand that in 1 second, this could all go away and you wouldn't have free speech anymore and you'd be under the tyrannous rule. So you are officially my scumbag of the week. Thank you, Maya Becker.
Bob, I'm very happy that you invited him to Gaza and not to Shabbat.
I was going to say,
All right? I think maybe you have advanced in your thought process as well as us.
We'll invite you for Shabbat.
Yes. We don't have the time anymore not to be clear on what good versus evil is. And I would invite you to Shabbat once you go to Gaza. Let's do that. I want you to get a true education.
He could be like Jackson Hinkle, who currently is what, in Yemen? He's in Yemen right now, that idiot. With the Houthis. I'm just thinking, wouldn't it be a sweet irony, just saying, just like, fantasizing out loud, if the Americans attacked and he got caught in that attack in Yemen, what would be happening? Okay, I'm going to do my scumbag not last because I want Emily to lead us on to heroes afterwards. My scumbag this week is Rachel Zegler from the new Snow White movie. Now, talk about somebody who could have taken herself into the biggest heights of her career if she would just have kept her ignorant mouth shut. This woman or young woman is playing Snow White, and the wicked queen is our queen, Gal Gadot. And since the beginning of the promotion of this movie, which could have been a really quick win for Disney. You are redoing the movie. That was such a popular, one of I think the first really popular Disney cartoon ever. A classic story. Okay, you want to update it. You want to make it more current. I'm a feminist. I'm with you. But what has she been doing this entire press tour? She's been berating the original Snow White story, saying that a man doesn't have to rescue you. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. But really taking something in the context of the 1930s when the first movie was made and completely berating the whole idea of a classic movie that we all loved. But of course, you had to go for Palestine, didn't you? And then she continued to write horrible things about Israel, right? Free Palestine, all that. Sitting next to her co-star, who is Gal Gadot, who is, of course, advocating for the hostages. And Gal Gadot, I have to say, you've been a real lady with this whole thing, because Gal Gadot could have taken it the other way. She could have attacked Rachel Zegler. She said nothing. And this woman, nobody has to attack her because she's imploding. Disney are so upset about the fact that she's essentially put a grenade into, she's put a grenade into the entire press tour that they have cancelled all the premieres in London, in LA, and they're doing the premiere in Segovia, in Spain, in some place that nobody's ever going to get you. I love you, Segovia, but, honestly, they picked the most remote place in Spain to do the press tour because they can't control her. They can't shut her up. And she has bombarded and destroyed a movie that could have been such a win for Disney. And for all of those things, Rachel Zegler, you are a moron. Shouldn't have been speaking. You know nothing about politics. You're an actress and a singer. Stay in your lane, girl, because you are now going to be forever boycotted from any major studio doing anything with you, and you only have yourself to blame. Scumbag of the week, Rachel Zegler. And with that, I move on to my wonderful co-host here, Emily, for your semi-scumbag of the week?
Yeah, I guess we can call him a non-scumbag because I feel like it's a bit of a too strong a description. I don't actually think he's a scumbag. However, this act I'm going to describe is a bit scumbaggish. So we'll stick with the act, not the person. But Steve Witkoff, what are you doing? What are you doing? First of all, the interview with Tucker Carlson, who was my scumbag just a few weeks ago for many reasons, which you can go back and watch. I won't spend all our time on that today. But he did this interview with Tucker Carlson during which he stated that the Qataris were good and decent people. Take a look.
I think in the case of the Qataris, they're criticized for not being well motivated. It's preposterous. They are well motivated. They're good, decent people.
Which obviously is insane because they, along with the Islamic Republic of Iran, are the largest sponsors of terror groups. They have been a sponsor of Hamas. They have given safe harbor to Hamas. They have been definitely not an impartial mediator in these negotiations. And of course, they are the mastermind behind Al Jazeera, which has been an inherent part of this war and the subversion and disinformation front that is pro-terror for many, many years. And continuing, in that same interview, he also claimed that Hamas isn't ideologically intractable. Take a look.
I think you have to know what Hamas wants, just to go back to your question.
Yes.
And then you've got to figure out what you can give them that allows them to walk out. Because that's what's needed here. You know, what we heard in the beginning of this conflict is Hamas is ideological, they're prepared to die. For a whole variety of reasons, I personally, and I talked to the president about this, there's nothing I don't talk to the president about before we're going to make a decision.
Yes.
Because he is the guy.
Yes.
He was elected. I was not. None of the other people were. He was elected. And I think that's how we have to function. With that said, I said to him, I don't think that they are as ideologically locked in. They're not ideologically intractable. I never believe that, by the way. I believe they strap on the suicide vests onto young kids who don't know what they're doing, right? And they tell them a story. And once you understand that, once you understand that they wanted to live, then you were able to talk to them in a more effective way.
This is obviously insane, and only someone who truly doesn't understand the Middle East would make such a naive comment. And I know that you mean well, and I really believe that, and I appreciate what you have done for the hostages so far. But to make such a statement is literally giving a win to Hamas. It's giving them an out, and this is not what we should be doing right now. And then finally, the entire conversation about Russia and Ukraine with Tucker Carlson, who of course is a shill of Putin himself, was absolutely insane. I mean, first of all, you started talking about the areas that Putin wants to control in Ukraine, and you couldn't even name them all. And then you incorrectly stated that the majority of the Ukrainians in those areas actually wanted to be a part of Russia, referring to specific referendums that have been thoroughly debunked. You also claimed that Ukraine is a false country when Ukraine is actually older than Russia. And then when you were asked if Putin is mischaracterized as a tyrant because of him, assassinating and poisoning his political dissidents all over the world, by the way, including, of course, Navalny inside of Russia, you answered that there are two sides to every story. Not to mention the fact that you gushed endlessly about the portrait that Putin had made for Trump. I mean, the entire interview is an exercise in patting the ego of one of the worst dictators in the world today, which is Vladimir Putin, while also giving a free pass to Qatar and Hamas. Now, I understand that in subsequent interviews, you did say that you had been somewhat duped by Hamas, which I appreciate, but at the same time, someone who is being duped by Hamas should not be in charge of negotiations. I mean, this is craziness. It's absolute craziness. And this is why you don't put business people in charge of major political issues. What we learned from this interview is that you don't understand A, dictatorships, but B, the Middle East. And that is an extremely dangerous position to be in. I do not trust this administration as it stands today when it comes to dealing with the Islamic regime in Iran or Hamas or Qatar. We need to see a completely different approach. You're missing the point. You're missing the point, and you do not understand the threat of Islamism if this is how you are responding to these issues and this is how you're talking about it. Not to mention the fact you shouldn't be placating people like Tucker Carlson in the first place. So please, I don't think you're a scumbag. I do think that this was an act, a scumbag act. Please, for the sake of everyone involved, do better.
Would you say you'd invite her for Shabbos then? If you
Sure.
No.
Him I would invite for Shabbos.
I would definitely invite him for Shabbos, but he did try and roll back some of it, of what you're saying, Emily. And you are right. I think this is what's incredible to me, and this has been a theme, I think, of this show today, is, and it happened to Antony Blinken as well, that at some point he said, it's clear that Hamas are not negotiating in good faith. Good faith? They are genocidal terrorists. They don't know the meaning of the phrase good faith. How can you say that? It's about saying that, I don't know, a crocodile has good faith and not it's just ridiculous. How can they be so duped? I think this is, I'm telling you, it's this charm of the Qataris are so good at this. They're so good at making you feel that they are on your side. They are masters at this,
I
actually.
think it's also the racism of low expectations. It's the idea of like, how could these barbarians, how could they outsmart us? You know, and I think that that's really ultimately, in a way, I think that's how October 7th happened. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, in his hubris, never really took the Palestinians at their face value. They're very committed, determined people. They have an objective. They have a goal. They want to destroy the state of Israel, and we need to start listening to them.
That's an interesting take, because I think Netanyahu did believe them. I just think he thought that he could buy them off, and that's where he was wrong.
The appeasement is
the appeasement, 100%.
Yeah, no, I just think that one of the other things that Witkoff mentioned in that same interview was that Hamas they just want to live at the end of the day. You know, they just want to live. No, they don't.
No,
like they are motivated by Islamism. The entire purpose of their movement is destruction of another entity. Like this is what they want.
We look at the losses after October 7th. That's obviously not what motivates them. Otherwise, they would have just not done October 7th.
Correct.
We project our values as Jews or Christians or people who have been living in Enlightenment societies. We project onto these people, Islamists, that they somehow are motivated in the same way that we are. But no, it's death, 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 death to achieve the goal of jihad and takeover.
And now, as we always end the show on a bright note, we want to go to our heroes. Shoshanna, let's start with you.
My hero is a British man named Damon Joshua, who was, I'm just quoting here from the Telegraph, sacked by Severn Trent Water for causing significant offense after calling Hamas disgusting terrorists on their staff portal, which I presume is British or some sort of WhatsApp. He's a British maintenance engineer fired for calling Hamas disgusting terrorists. The company claimed that he caused significant offense to those staff with Muslim or Palestinian backgrounds and cited gross misconduct for having a one-sided view. Oh my God. Like, here's someone expressing fact. Hamas are disgusting terrorists. They are jihadis who want to murder all Jews and Israelis. 44 nations, people from 44 nations were kidnapped on October 7th. There's nothing one-sided about calling a terrorist, and I am appalled that he was fired for this. Talking about free speech, talking about being able to express yourself. Well, if someone can't express the fact that this is evil, that evil is evil, we have a very, very big problem. It's not just America, it's also the UK, it's also Australia. You guys have to wake up and understand that your rights to speech, your rights to think, your rights to be someone who has an opinion are under serious risk. You need to wake up and fight back.
Absolutely. I've got a good friend, Stephen Phillips. Some of you may know him. He's got a Twitter account, Lord Stephen Phillips, but he's actually been working on anti-Semitism in the workplace in the UK. And he hopefully will be on our show soon to tell us about what he found. It's astounding, and this is very much in line from what he found. Emily, who's your hero?
So my hero this week is Wendy Sachs, who is the director and creator of the film that is now in theaters, October 8th. Now, full disclosure, I was a part of this film. I have a whole one line. I'm defining Zionism, so stay tuned. It's almost at the end, so you got to watch the whole thing.
Anyone can define it.
Yeah. Yes. But seriously, this is a critically important film. It's all about the protest movement that popped up on October 7th, before October 7th attacks had even ended, including on campuses, including in the UK, across the world. We saw pro-Palestinian, which is really pro-Hamas protests, pop up against the state of Israel on October 7th still. Remember, this is before Israel had ever responded to anything. Campus anti-Semitism has been bad for a long time. I experienced it myself. It's worse now, significantly worse. And in this film, you see the evidence. You speak to many different people, from me several years ago on campus to people who were targeted for their Zionist or Jewish or both identity on campus just in the last year or so. Some of the most horrific stories that have happened to students. And it's just a really, really important documentary exposing what the scope of this problem and how bad it has gotten on American campuses, and that this is not about free speech. It's not about Palestinians. It's not about peace in the Middle East. It's about hating Jews. This is what's at the core of this anti-Israel, free Palestine protest movement. It is a pro-terrorist movement. And you see that very, very clearly based on the statements of the organizations, the things that they're doing at their protests, at their encampments across campus, the way that they're targeting Jewish individuals and students on campus, including in some cases violently. And Wendy just does a fantastic job taking us through, whether it's on the right or left is completely irrelevant. You have representation from people in multiple parties in this documentary. Really, really important film. Please go see it. And Wendy Sachs, you are my hero of the week.
Absolutely. And it's in regular cinemas in America. And it's actually now the #1 documentary in America. That should have won the Oscar, and not those bleeding heart idiot progressives who gave the Oscar to that propaganda film against Israel with that, I don't even want to say the word, but just another shameless promotion. Tessa Wexler and Eyal Yakovi, both on the Kol Israel slate, vote #4. They're also in that movie. And we salute Wendy for the wonderful work that she's done. Thank you, Emily. Daniel.
My hero this week is a lesbian.
Oh, Daniel, normally they're your scumbags.
I know.
What happened?
I found a wonderful lesbian.
Oh, good.
So my hero is Ariel Scarcella. She is a YouTuber, and she has gone really above and beyond to expose a lot of the demoralization in the queer community. She goes to pride events, and she exposes just how weird they are, the purple hair girls, as I call them. And she's done a few videos on Queers for Palestine, but she hasn't gotten like so much into it as I have in terms of really understanding Israel and the subversion. But for anyone who is curious as to how insane the queer community has gotten and how bizarre it has gotten with gender ideology, these are really the things that the left needs to rein in, and it's up to the left to do it. And the idea of what J.D. Vance said about there being normal gays, there is truth to that. Like, we need to self-correct the LGBT community. And so, Ariel, I want to thank you so much for doing that. Check out her YouTube page. It is fascinating. And she's done videos where she's gone to college campuses and asked them, she's like held up a picture of Trump and then like members of Hezbollah. And she's like, who do you think is more homophobic? And like a lot of people said Trump. Like, they have no idea. Like, the education system in the States is like a disaster. People are raised without any religion, without Christianity or Judaism to like ground them a little bit. No values, they are civic values. They're nuts. Yeah. So
is she the one that goes around asking peer quiz, how many genders are there? And they can't answer it?
Yes, all of those videos. She's doing a great job. Yes. So thank you, Ariel.
Amazing. Fantastic hero. And I'm glad you found a lesbian that you like.
I love it.
All right, Bob. My hero of the week, every week really, is Megyn Kelly. Thank you so much. I love watching your show. I want to say thank you for so many things, but I don't have enough time. So I'm just going to say, for this week, you're my hero for calling out our fellow Jew, Glenn Greenwald.
Well, he worked for UNRWA, which is basically a branch of Hamas. That's one thing.
Megan, the UNRWA was funded by the U.S. government for decades under both political parties. It's a part of the UN,
but more recently, it's been very aligned with Hamas. You can't deny that. Let's just look at what he did as the spokesperson for this group, Columbia University apartheid I can't remember the acronym, but it's, you know, the group, CUAD, I think it was, divest. And he served their spokesperson. That was the group that took over Hamilton Hall and engaged in the encampments on Columbia University. Hamilton Hall alone had so many crimes, we could spend all day talking about the number of crimes. Was
Khalil there?
He, not that we know of. We don't believe he was there, but he was the chief negotiator. Exactly. No, it matters. When you're the spokesperson, that's literally written into the immigration and the terrorism statutes. If you are the spokesperson for a group that espouses or supports terror, you're out.
Would you please come for Shabbat? I am so worried about you because you are on all these platforms now because you're defending Mahmoud Khalil. Megyn Kelly, a non-Jewish person, had to inform you that the UN and UNRWA is actually funding terrorism against Jews and queer people. You are queer. You are Jewish. You say that you believe in Jewish values. You said that you're one of your grandparents, I think your maternal grandmother was in the Holocaust. How can you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I stand with Jews or I stand for Jewish values when you are literally defending Mahmoud Khalil and saying things like to Megyn Kelly on air, come on, are you going to tell me the UN is anti-Semitic? Yes. So she is my hero because you really know how to do that. And I applaud you for actually putting your anti-Semitic alarm hat on and noticing that when people are anti-Semitic, they generally also are anti-Christian and anti-American. And I just applaud you for calling it out. So you are my hero.
Okay, my hero is an incredible German woman called Caroline Preisler. She is the bravest lady because every single demonstration of hate towards Israel and the Jewish people in Germany, she just stands there quietly with different placards, some saying Hamas are terrorists, some saying believe Jewish women, some saying rape is not resistance. And she is surrounded by a pack of hounds trying to take away her placards, trying to harass her, bully her, push her around. The German police do a good job in protecting her. But this woman, relentlessly, for the last year and a half, every single week is out there on the streets on her own, just standing for truth. And I just have to call her out because she's a pretty incredible woman. So thank you, Caroline.
We don't have her yet.
I don't think
I was going to do her also. And then I was like, I'm sure we already did. But
well, Caroline, you're a hero and a brave soul to all of us here. And with that, we end our wonderful show with a prayer, as we have done every single week since we started a year and a half ago, that the 25 live hostages and the rest who are unfortunately already not with us, they all come home to their families as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.